Today we're going to profile a profiler. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Sassy Girl on 4th Avenue in historic downtown Conway. We're talking about newspaper reporting, and we're visiting with a longtime reporter of the Myrtle Beach Herald, Paul Gable. Good morning, Paul.
Hi, Greg. How
and
you
from
doing?
this side of the waterway, obviously a Loris boy.
And Merry Christmas to you.
Oh, yeah, big day tomorrow. Absolutely. It's your first Christmas with your grandson, is that right?
With the grandson, yeah.
Very exciting, Paul. He is how old now?
Well, he was born October 3rd.
Wow.
So I mean, we're talking
2.5 months.
Yeah, he won't have a clue as to what's going on, and he probably will, if he pays attention to anything, it'll be the bright lights on the Christmas tree and maybe the colored paper on any presents. But you know, that's the way they are at that point. But yeah, I mean, that was an exciting time for us, Greg.
Yeah. Paul, you and Kathy both.
Do you have time? Let me tell you a really quick story about it.
We got 25 minutes. Yeah. We can talk about this all morning. That's fine.
Paul called me up. It was a Tuesday night. I had just sent my last story to Betty for that Thursday edition. It was about 11:15. Paul called me up and he said, how do you know if the water broke? And I said, well, Paul, it's kind of obvious. I mean, there's a fair amount of liquid in there, you know. And he said, well, we're not sure. I said, well, is she having much pain or what have you? And he said, she's having some. I said, well, you know, if it continues and it seems to be building, call the doctor.
Yeah.
Now, he lives in northern Kentucky.
Right.
He's about 45 minutes or so from downtown Cincinnati. They were going to go to a hospital in Cincinnati, or just outside of Cincinnati somewhere. Calls me back 20 minutes later. He said, she's on the phone with a doctor. He told us to come in. I said, okay, you know, see what's happening.
Yeah.
He can certainly tell you if the water's broken, and if it is, they probably want to take the baby because they don't want infection.
Right.
He calls me up at less than an hour later, and he says, it's a baby boy.
Oh, my God.
I said, Paul, you're kidding me. Now, this is their first child. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, I'm serious. I said, give me a break here. I said, you can pull my leg a lot, but I'm not going to He said, Dad, I'm serious. It happened. They never made it to the hospital they were supposed to go to. Her labor advanced so quickly that there was a hospital halfway in between, fortunately.
Right.
And when they came up to that exit on the interstate, she said, Paul, get off. I ain't going to make it.
Wow.
So they went from beginnings of labor to birth in less than 2 hours.
No way.
And an 8-pound, 2-ounce baby.
Oh, you're kidding.
This was not a small baby or anything, you know. Yeah, honest to goodness.
Wow.
It was an unbelievable night in many ways.
What a celebration.
Yeah,
that is tremendous.
And then Betty, worked it right into the paper for us that time.
That's right. It got in there. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting because it's our first grandchild. And
you and Kathy have 3
children.
Yeah.
Only Paul's married, and that's the only grandchild, and frankly, I don't know what a grandfather's supposed to do yet. I haven't figured that out.
Well, tomorrow's the big day. You can figure it out. And tonight, I'm sure you all have some great festivities going on. That is amazing, Paul.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an unbelievable feeling. It really is. And part of that is probably the family going on and that kind of thing, generations to come.
Yeah.
But part of it is just seeing that little thing, and it's just incredible again. See, we were up there during Thanksgiving.
That's right. Y'all were up there, and so he was almost 2 months old then.
Yeah.
Now he's almost 3 months old.
Yeah. So we're
now.
Yeah. And then of course it'll be a while because they're in pretty cold country, and I'm not going up there during the snow.
That's right. Now, not to date you, Paul, but you were in your early 30s then when your son was born.
I was 35.
Okay, you were 35 when your son was born. Do you remember? You surely don't remember it in the same way.
Well, no. I mean, it was totally different. For several reasons. I remember I was very excited to have a son born, but then of course we ran into the heart problems and what have you, and then we evolved into a whole different ballgame. But having a son born is a very special thing. And then having a grandson is extremely special, but in a different way. And I was told by others that this would happen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's tough to explain. It's just tough to explain, but I just told him that I told Paul that he and I have had a very good relationship through the years, and that I hope that he and his son had just exactly the same kind of relationship, and that it went just as well, Right.
I'm sure a lot of viewers want to know: is this Paul the Third? Is he carrying that name? Did your daughter-in-law step in and say no more of that?
Well, I think probably partially. I think Paul too. You see, Paul is Paul the Fourth.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it'd be Paul the Fifth.
Yeah, he told me that.
So you're the third.
I'm the third.
Wow.
He told me it sounded too much like some former king of England
Yeah,
or something,
exactly.
and he said he wasn't going to have that. And it's Brendan Nicholas is what it is.
Brendan Nicholas, yes. Wow, that's fantastic. Brendan Nicholas Gable.
I couldn't talk him into carrying it on. No.
Yeah. Well, the fourth is a big deal, the fact that you and Kathy made the commitment. You'll also have two girls.
Two girls.
Yes. And the one is, where are they now?
Well, Ashley graduated from Francis Marion last spring, and she's in Myrtle Beach.
Good.
And she's worked with Senior Frogs since it opened. Not that she's planning to stay there, but she said she wanted to take a little time off and just kind of relax after the study.
Take it easy after 4 years of school. Yeah.
And once after the new year, sometime after next week, sometime she'll be putting out real applications to do real things.
That's great.
She's just kind of relaxing. And Chrissy is a senior in high school.
Is that right? Paul, what's that like to think for you and Kathy, after almost 30 years of marriage, and to see that you'd have your third child actually leaving the house or, finishing high school? Is that a strange feeling? How y'all?
Extremely.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, Greg, you notice it when each one leaves.
Yeah.
And, when Paul went away to college his freshman year, I told him, all things being equal, you'll never be a full-time member of the house again. And, of course, he hasn't been. And then Ashley would come and spend weekends with us.
Right.
And one other thing I always did like to see happen, Paul, of course, went to Newberry, so it wasn't possible to commute.
Right.
Ashley went to Francis Marion, but I wanted her to live on campus because I wanted her to have that experience.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's important you get out of the house and you're not tied. So, she effectively left when she was a freshman in high school. We were down to Chrissy. Now, here we are with Chris graduating in June, and it's different. Just thinking about it, we talk about it all the time.
Right.
After Paul left, and then with Ashley essentially gone, although she'll come home and visit several times a week, it's still not the same. With Chris, once Chris decides to go, and she told me that she's definitely going to go out on her own because she wants to.
Right.
And we look and say, what are we going to do here?
Right.
Because you kind of rediscover each other.
Yeah.
The early years of marriage when you're alone, and we had just about two of them before Paul was born, of course, and time before that. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, and you're young, and you do. And we lived in Boston, so we used to run around to games and the Pops,
sure.
and the 4th of July stuff in the Charles and all that business. And then you settle down, and you have these children, and of course you basically, or we basically anyway, put our lives around theirs to make sure that they always had at least one of us around, and to get, Paul was in tennis, the girls were in gymnastics, we were traveling all over the place, going to meets and matches and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that ends, and it's not the same as when you were young.
Right.
Now we're probably just going to sit back and talk about and reminisce and say, where did the years go? But it's funny how life evolves. It really is.
That is. It's fascinating. And of course, as we are on the eve of the birth of Christ, the celebration of the birth of Christ, and to recognize lots of births happening for you, it was 3 months ago, with the celebration of the birth of your first grandchild, and for so many others, and I'm sure for you right now, celebrating the birth of Christ, and so many others going through that right now. It's a very exciting time.
Oh, it is. It is.
And for us, the celebration of your joining the Herald 4 years ago and having really made an impact, I was sharing with, as I saw the graphic artists at the Herald laying out the nice Christmas page, which will come out, which has just come out already, but the idea of highlighting from the staff, thanking everyone in the community, and wishing them a merry, happy New Year. And he was thinking about the folks that are in the building all the time. Of course, you and Steve are out on the street all the time doing things. And I said, this guy Paul's writing 12 pieces a week for us. I mean, you've got more stuff in the Herald each week. Of course, and you don't do a column. We want to talk a little about that, but you do the 3 big profiles every week. You do county coverage and then a lot of sports coverage.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's fun.
Yeah.
I think, you have to like it and you have to enjoy it. And it's very diverse. Sports is a relaxation time for me. I love high school sports. I like college sports, but I love high school sports.
Right.
And it's fun to watch these kids develop through the years, and it's fun because I remember with mine, you know, Paul went to school on a tennis scholarship, and when we got the recruiting calls and all that business, that was a pain in the neck at the time. It really was.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, your phone rings constantly.
He was recruited all over the place.
Yeah, he was recruited
tennis.
a lot, and it was, I mean, it just gets foolish after a while, you know. But, you know, that's until you make your decision and what have you, and he frankly chose his school by the major, wanting to major in journalism. And I mean, they called it communications, but they did radio, TV, and print during the 4-year curriculum. It was a requirement. So he had a little bit of a basis in each one.
Right.
But, you know, seeing these kids start and then seeing them get offers, and those that don't get offers, you know, there's a lot of kids, many, the multitude of kids that play high school sports, it's the last time they'll ever compete in competitive sports for a school.
Right.
But watching them go out and work hard, to me, it's just fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I love it.
Particularly a sport like tennis, where it truly is a one-on-one, where they're not competing with gear on, or even, I mean, they're just, it's really a one-on-one, which is a great thing. You can truly see the competitive flair there.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, one thing I try and do, and I hope I do a reasonable job of it, is cover all the sports.
Oh, yeah.
Rather, I mean, because it's easy to get hung up on the major sports, which, you know, football, of course, and especially where we are in the South, basketball, and then, you know, baseball to a lesser extent in the spring, girls softball. It's nice to see, you know, that the girls have the same opportunities as the boys each day to compete.
Absolutely.
Some of our better teams, Myrtle Beach High School's girls basketball team, for example, you know, I will be surprised, and I'm not doing this to Mickey Hunter to put him on the spot, but I will be surprised if they don't go to the state championship this year. Now, the football team was good, but the tennis team, historically is right there, you know, either at the lower state or at the state championship. You know, we have some excellent, wonderful track athletes. And cross-country athletes. Swimming, you know, the Carolina Forest girls just recently had a string of 100 and some odd consecutive meet victories broken.
No way.
They were that powerful, but Myrtle Beach is there. You know, wrestling's a, you know, real collegiate and high school wrestling is a great sport.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. Now, you go to some of these tournaments around here, and you might have 6 matches going on at the same time. They spread mats all over, and you have to do that because you have, you know, maybe 20 schools in, and you go through the preliminary rounds and what have you, but you're running from mat to mat because there's certain wrestlers that you want to see and what have you, you know. I mean, it's just great. It's great competition. I love it. So that's my relaxation. You know, and the profiles are fun.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Well, for you, and of course, getting out, go ahead, please, really getting out into the community with, I was thinking 3, it's really 4 profiles with your teammate of the week.
With the teammate, Sometimes we'll do a team.
Sure.
Or you know, some multiple
Or take
teammates.
a little time off in the summer sometimes.
And we take time off in the summer.
Right.
Because, you know, really at that time, basically, we'd have to be doing a Pelican every week, which is okay.
Something to think about.
You know, but yeah, to the profiles, I have a lot of help from different American Legion, VFW, Purple Heart organizations and what have you that will give me veterans' names. You know?
Paul.
And that's been exciting.
To think of this, you've done more than 200 Veterans of the Week. More than 200 of them in a 4-year period with 52 a year. You've done now north of 200 profiles of veterans in our area. And I know you've highlighted even some amazing veterans from other parts of the world, parts of Canada and otherwise, but to think about locally, the impact that you've made on veterans that have retired to the area, some of whom are no longer with us. It probably gives you goosebumps just thinking about it.
It does. And, you know, I spent 10 years in the Navy, and I had never met somebody who was at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. But I did meet somebody down here through that veteran profile that was at Pearl Harbor.
That's right.
I met somebody who flew for Claire Chennault in the Flying Tigers in China, in China before we got into the war over there. People that were surrounded during the Battle of the Bulge. One guy who was a bomber pilot, on his 2nd mission, he was shot down over Germany. I mean, it's been
absolutely.
The last POW to be released out of Vietnam. A Navy pilot that was shot down.
Recently. Exactly. Folks can go online at myrtlebeachherald.com, our show sponsor, and look at some of the amazing veterans Veteran of the Week, a great idea, but your ability to do it and do it well really comes across, Paul, to all the veterans and to the readers. They see you're committed to it. You understand the lingo. You understand how they need to get their points across, and you do an amazing job of it.
Well, thank you, but, it was your idea. You're the guy to come up with it, so we got to give credit
where
credit's due.
That's right. And I remember early on when we kicked them off almost simultaneously.
Right.
Public Servant of the Week, Public Safety Profile, a Teammate of the Week, and a Veteran of the Week. People are thinking, what are y'all doing? 4 profiles a week. You wouldn't find a person
I was thinking, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, I'm sure you were. Well, thankfully you're doing them. I mean, we could have gotten anyone else who could turn them out and turn them out as well. But I don't think you'd find a person today who wouldn't say thank you for starting them, thank you for keeping them going, thank you for hiring the kind of people like Paul to do these profiles, because they've gotten across in so many special ways to people who are making a real difference on our community, whether it's veterans, public servants, or public safety people.
Well, the public servants and the public safety, we're letting people put a face to a name,
right.
Especially now, in the public safety area in the county, going to this precinct thing. We've introduced the captain, the lieutenant will be going down into the sergeants that are in the particular precinct, so they can put a face to a name and what have you. Same thing with the public servants, who handles our rec fields, who provides communications in the county, who helps with maintenance, who does roads. All those things, it helps you form, transient as we are, people coming and going all the time, coming more than going. It gives them at least maybe even a name to call if they have a problem, but it's fun. I mean, and believe me, I'm helped by a lot of people. I get a lot of calls and emails.
Here's a good one to profile.
Yes,
sure.
absolutely. Good. Because, it's the same way with news gathering. In the beginning, you cannot know everything about everything. You rely on other people to provide you with information, with tips, with some kind of, maybe you want to go check this out, that type of thing. That's the way you got news.
And
that's
you've met reporters in the past who think they know everything, right? You've met them in the past.
They fail quickly, Greg.
Yeah, they all die quick. I mean, they're all under.
You can't do it unless you have people, and you got to culture this over a period of years. People that are willing to talk to you, people that trust you, people who that say to you, "I don't want my name used. You won't use it." People that would say, "Yeah, this is something the Herald ought to take a look at." And we have developed and believe me, not just me. I mean, we have developed a reputation for looking in depth at issues.
Right.
I mean, you rely. We serve the community, but the community helps with that a lot.
Absolutely.
And we
the openness in meetings is a big deal. Many people have heard the radio spots with you talking about, obviously, the Northeastern Strategic Alliance, the Council of Government, so many groups that have really opened up their meetings much more, thanks to you getting in there and in their face and reminding them they serve not only their constituents or people that have appointed them to those positions, but boy, the entire people of the community. They need to remember that and open these meetings up to the media.
Well, look at one of our latest controversies here, especially in Myrtle Beach. And that's, of course, this spill from AVX, this contamination.
Right.
DHEC knew about that for 12 years, the Department of Health and Environmental Control at the state level. Did we hear about it? I mean, yes, it was on file.
That's right, yeah. No, I'm kidding, yeah.
It was on file.
Right.
And if you put in a Freedom of Information Act request about it, you would have gotten it from DHEC. Right. So technically it was public record. But who's going to think to put in a Freedom of Information Act request about any kind of contamination on a street in Myrtle Beach unless it hits somewhere? The openness, people have a right to know. Over the years, the more I cover government, the more I think governments at every level would prefer to operate behind closed doors. It's easier. They get no criticism. They don't have people hammering them. They don't get people applauding them either, which they all love. But you can make easy decisions when nobody's watching.
We actually talked about this last week, I guess it was last week when we were with Chairman Gillen about the executive sessions, which have not been occurring, at least in the last few years. It had happened almost every week. It was actually on the agenda, not to pick on the previous chairman, but that it was every week. They'd almost consecutively, they'd be going an executive session. We're in now, at least during her tenure, it's happened one time, she talked about. Maybe a couple more times.
It's happened a few more times than that. But you do have to give Liz credit that one thing that she did hate was the the weekly executive session,
right,
you know,
right.
That was on the agenda, part of the routine thing. That's when we would go in the back and discuss what we didn't want to discuss on camera.
Right,
and she said that she would put an end to that, and essentially she has. There are, you know, a few things that you really have to discuss in private, such as whether you're going to fire somebody or not.
Right.
But again, decisions can't be made back there. You can only get briefings and background and legal points and what have you.
Sure.
But, you know, if we go to another county entity, which is a solid waste authority, the executive session is still a routine part of their agenda.
Is that on the agenda? Is that right?
Yeah, every week. The school board, all the time. Now, the school board may have some issues because they do get briefings on, hiring and also student discipline.
Oh, good
problems,
point,
you know? So, I mean, I can see that. But they will abuse it. They're not allowed to actually discuss things. They're not allowed to take straw polls. But it happens because I talk to members of different agencies that tell me, yeah, we discussed that back there.
Right.
You know, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be in the public because the light is supposed to shine on government. That's what it's all about.
That's a very good point. Fairness and other issues that really stick out. You know, as you think, we've just got a couple minutes, Paul, as you think, and I'm sorry time is flying.
That's
Obviously,
okay.
We're all getting excited about later on tonight and tomorrow, but there are lots of local issues that need to stay out in the public eye. There's some big issues that you're looking to make sure that the coverage is there in 2008, that you're thinking to make sure. I know you cover, we highlighted the profiles, we highlighted both high school and college sports. You're also really covering the government.
Yeah, and
the county.
The county government, if there's one issue that I think will be a major issue in 2008 and later, it's going to be actually the restriction on county government that the state government has made with their ability to fund themselves and collect, you know, to establish fees and taxes. There's been a great debate in this county the last couple of years, have some kind of impact fees so that these developments that are coming up will not be paid for by those of us who have been here for a long time.
Right.
However, the state law basically negates the ability of a local government to put any kind of meaningful impact fee. That is one of the reasons, in my opinion, that we now have a 1-cent sales tax paying for roads. Well, we can't get any money from the federal government. We can't get any money from the state government. So I guess it became an issue. If you don't do it yourself, nobody's going to do it. But by the same token, the widening of 544, which occurred, or the widening of 707, which is going to occur, or the extension of Carolina Bays Parkway, is basically driven by development. And yet we're all paying that extra 1 cent. Now, 1 cent doesn't seem like a lot, but if you spend $20,000 a year on, you know, the things that you buy, food, well, that's probably minimal, really, when you think about it.
Right.
But that's $200.
It is $200. That's exactly
That's an extra
right.
$200 in taxes you're paying to fund your own roads. That, to a great extent, development has caused a reason to be widened and what have you. Just as an example, you know, schools. We are constantly getting referendums to fund new school building. Why are we funding new school building? Because we're getting new students. Why are we getting new students? Because they're moving into new areas. It all goes back to the same thing, you know. But the local government and school board, those two, you know, their ability to fund themselves, they were restricted a couple of years ago by state government to how much they could raise taxes in any one year, to a combination of population growth and consumer price index increase. Okay? There is now talk that this coming year, there's going to be a bill put into the state government that does the same thing to the ability to spend. So if we grow at 5 or 6 or 7% a year, but our government is restricted to 2 or 3% revenue growth.
That'd be crazy, right?
But this is what's being talked about at Columbia. I think that's going to be the biggest issue coming up.
Okay, well, we'll be following that closely, and you and your writings there, Paul. What really drives you here in a journalistic sense? What keeps you so focused now? I hate to say it, in your early 60s, going forward. What's going to keep you going so strong? You highlighted that earlier.
Well, it's true. I mean, I am in my early 60s, and what keeps me going? I believe, going back to the beginnings of this country, the founding fathers, especially Jefferson, Madison, George Mason, they had the feeling that the press, the first duty of the press was to be a watchdog on government, to let people know. They felt that an educated populace that was presented with the issues could then make intelligent decisions to vote in a democracy. That's really, and it made it sound corny, but I'm a history nut, and I believe that a newspaper's first job is to give the people the information about what's going on, especially about their government. And then when the time comes, election time and what have you, they can make intelligent choices. Referendum time, they can make intelligent choices.
Good words.
That's what drives me.
Good words. Paul, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg.
Merry Christmas
Merry
tomorrow.
Christmas to you.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Myrtle Beach Herald reporter Paul Gable. Coming up next. Look at all these big celebrations. Today, on the eve of the celebration of the birth of Christ, we're celebrating the joyous arrival of Paul's grandson less than 3 months ago, showing up here in town, celebrating his first Christmas here in Horry County, and the opportunity to be with his grandparents and his 2 aunts, a real joyous time. Think also of these celebrations of 4 years of Paul's profiles. These 4 profiles, 200-plus teammates of the week in the last 4 years, 200-plus public safety personnel being profiled, public servants of the week, and 200-plus veterans in our area being profiled and reminded of their tremendous service to our country, You're only finding it in the Myrtle Beach Herald, our show sponsor. Go online to myrtlebeachherald.com, go to a box, slip 50 cents in, get one out, or pick up the phone and dial 626-3131. Get a subscription today. It's as low as $25 for seniors, $30 in county, $35 out of county, and $40 anywhere in the continental United States. Make a commitment. Go online and support the Myrtle Beach Herald by checking out some of these tremendous local profiles of Paul Gable and all the amazing writers.